Okay, so I should have got another cup of coffee before I started this, but it's all good, right? I'm just gonna power through it. One of the things that kind of I don't know if it irks me, but one of the things that kind of is a pause for people who come from the Midwest or the East Coast, especially the South, or California, coming to Tacoma is going to be a little bit of a culture shock on a few different pieces. And one, I think, is that people over exaggerate things that are just not reality, right? There's false equivalencies and comparisons between Tacoma versus other cities. And I get it, because when you look at Tacoma and you see the light rail line and you see the buildings, it looks like you're in a city about the size of Dallas. Well, Dallas is extreme, but it looks like you're in a big city, bigger than what Tacoma is. You don't get that vibe when you go to Spokane. You really don't. But you really feel like you're in a fairly big city. The port, the optics feel like, man, we're in a pretty big city, like Kansas City, St. Louis, something like that, Denver maybe. But that's still not even accurate there. Those cities are by far bigger. And they're the principal city. And for some people who come here and they're used to a very active city, you're not really going to get that in Tacoma. Not yet. Other people will assume that Monday through Friday, we are very much a working class city. There's no question. You don't have a lot of, stay-at-home moms in Tacoma. You do have a few. Don't get me wrong. You have quite a bit. But it's not like you would see up in Bellevue or in Seattle. It's more of a working man's town. Right? Now that's quickly changing. It's quickly changing. But if you're wanting to see like live, active downtowns happening and all, it just isn't going to happen. Not in Tacoma. I had someone say it'd be cool if they had festivals and events, and why is the farmers market during the middle of the business day? And why not on Saturday? I don't know. People say like a lot of people are off on Saturdays. You're correct about that, sir. It makes sense if they had it on Saturday. You're absolutely right, sir. Where do they put it, though? I think Ruston has a market on the weekends, I believe. I can't remember. A place that doesn't need any extra help. The market is I believe, I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't care enough to even dive into it to even find out. But that type of stuff. Tacoma has a very small town mindset. When you people who have lived here for over, let's say, 10 years, they can be from any place, New York, but eventually it creeps in that we're just too small to do that, or that's just not us. We're not like Seattle, and we're not. But people then become very slow. Typically, I've seen very slow and just what to envision for the city. Now, I can't really say that too much about developers. Some of them, yes, absolutely. But it's typically developers from outside of the city that bring in very interesting projects. Have you noticed that? If Interurban, which is a Spokane company, hadn't come to Tacoma, we would not even be having a food hall. These are facts. If it wasn't for the other company that's building tracks, they're from out of town, we would not be having a building that is supposed to support a full-scale farmers market that's Monday through Sunday. Now, getting the farmers market into the building, that's a different story. There's a lot of red tape. Tacoma has People think I'm joking, and professionally, people make fun of me when I talk about the fact that Tacoma loves its permits. We do. It's there's such a we waste money on things that don't make sense, and we don't invest in things that do make sense typically when you're looking at the bureaucratic side of things. But developers and businesses, damn, if it wasn't for them, like, where would we be? I don't mean for this to be a negative thing, but it's just it is what it is, right? But with that said, you can have people that are from another part of the country who come here, move here, and they're like, "Oh my God, I remember," and nothing against the guy. He's from another, I think he's from New York or someplace, I can't remember. And he was saying that, there was a tour that was done downtown, and it's an amazing tour that was done. Um, it was illustrated. It talked very well about different things going on. You got a feel of, dang, look at the synergy. And the person that was leading the tour had a lot of enthusiasm and knowledge, and it put things into perspective. Like, dang, these types of tours should be taped and available to the general public every so often so that people realize that we don't have a dead downtown. But regardless, there was a person who said, "Oh, I feel so bad for these businesses downtown. We got to do something to support them. I don't see how they're hanging on." And yes, please do support downtown businesses. But the expectation is that when you go to New York City, even if you went into an area that is just a neighborhood area, it's full of people. It is. It's full of people. The little bodega on the corner always got people flowing in and out. You can go into any business downtown and you don't see the same thing. In Tacoma, you won't. And it's not going to be that same way. You know why? Tacoma has 220,000 people. New York is at 8 million. Let's not talk about the suburbs and the metro area and all that stuff to complicate things. Let's just look at the two cities. People make that same equivalency, which that's nonsense because you're comparing a world-class city, New York, to a place that most people don't even know where it is. The other part is here locally, we don't get good equivalencies like Spokane. I really wish Spokane was closer than what it is, but we don't get comparisons of like us in Spokane. We get comparisons that are very false equivalencies. Seattle is who we're compared to. They don't compare us to Everett because that wouldn't be fair to Everett, right? But they compare us to Seattle and they compare us to Bellevue. Why? Because of our skyline and because of the amenities that we have and all of those types of things. That is what it's mind-boggling. But I do agree there should be more people downtown. The problem with that is that we don't, again, and I've said this, and my boss said I should run for politics, and I said, absolutely not. I've had people say that, but no, never. I shouldn't say never, but it's highly unlikely. Because I would be so frustrated, I wouldn't last. But because there's a lot of things that don't make sense. That it just doesn't make sense. And I've seen things over time where it's like, why would somebody do it? It doesn't make sense. And yet it happens. And it ends up being stupid. It's just, and other people, like, it's glaringly obvious something doesn't make sense. And yet, because of the right person saying this is what we're going to do, that's the direction that happens, and it doesn't work out. I understand we're in a democratic society. I get that. But sometimes things are just so, and that if you're used to a quick turnaround, the city's always creating new things, and that's not Tacoma. And it's never going to be Tacoma. Until we get people in positions where it's not about feelings, but it's about action, it's just, you're never going to have that dynamic that's going to happen on purpose. It's happening more organically by developers and business owners and entrepreneurs. That's what's making that happen. But as far as trying to really create things like that, it doesn't. For example, Tacoma wanted to create an entertainment district. So it went to the Dome and said, let's create this as an entertainment district. And they put out a bid for various different companies to come and compete. Many of them did not even consider. Why? Don't know. But there are many ways that the city could have went about this and strategically went after various different entertainment companies. That probably did not happen. And I know that that's possible because I've reached out to entertainment companies, had a lot of direct talks with them. And even the thing is I am an individual. I'm a business owner. There's a lot of different things in my position too, in terms of what I do. That helps. But it doesn't seal the deal until you have people that really can cut checks and make policy decisions and make decisions. I can't make no decision. But I'm able to get very far, months and months and months of conversation with big entertainment companies that would be a major regional draw. And we don't have people within the city that has that type of vision. Why? Because people act as if we're a hamlet. And so the deal fell through because Topgolf wanted the entire parking lot at the Dome. And at the time, the person over the Dome didn't want to get rid of all that parking space. Now, in my own humble opinion, the Dome area, that big, massive parking lot should be a parking structure or two. Are they expensive? Yes. But having the old school 1950s big old parking lots, nobody does that anymore. And I know that was built a long time ago, but that should be in a parking garage, and the rest of that land, which is very valuable, right there on the interstate, we have a limited amount of land, should be turned into something. Businesses, restaurants, things like that. That's not going to happen. Not in my lifetime, probably. So what could have happened was we already have a semi-unofficial entertainment zone. It's right down there. We're all on Pack Avenue after 9th Street, I believe. I think I'm right. Where you start seeing that, right? Really and truly, the city should designate from where Keys on Main is all the way, or even before that, all the way down. That should be our entertainment district. Why? It already has entertainment. I don't know. Like, you already have at least a half a dozen bars there. I don't know the exact number, but they're all next door to each other. You have a brewery there. You have other stuff that's trying to come in. Why not make that your entertainment district? And if you needed to expand it because other businesses are trying to get close by, cool. But that would have probably been successful because you already have the hard work done. Putting in a bar is expensive and it's challenging and it's hard. We could have already done that. And we could have built in perks for developers to bring in additional buildings and things like this. That's just my opinion, right? That's just my opinion. The reason why I won't do politics is because unless you are in Seattle, if you're the mayor of Seattle, that's a different story. I'd do that day. I would do that. I wouldn't want to be over Seattle. It's too much responsibility. But if you are if absolute decisions are kind of made through the mayor and the council kind of comes up with, policies and different, I'd do that. Not this one where everybody has to weigh in on if we should get an iPhone. And if we get an iPhone, why do we choose iPhone over Android? And, okay, so if we go with iPhone, 40 people have to agree. If we go with iPhone, what color are we going to get? Okay, now that we figured out maybe what colors and 40 different answers of what colors should be and why, then we have to decide, is it really worth it? And you gotta have people saying, well, I don't really think we should be spending any money. And then you gotta have some people say, I think we should get Android. And the other people, I think we should get iPhone. Other people are gonna say, I think we should just use carrier pigeon to get our messages across. It's the most effective thing, and that's what other people do. You spend their money. It's that type of mentality that happens here. So nothing really gets done. So that's why I will never run for politics here. It's because you may have, and that's the sad part is, you have people who are in elected office who get blamed for everything, even though they don't like it either. They may not like seeing a tremendous amount of homelessness, and they may have ideas on ways to fix it, but you got to get the whole crew, the army, to agree that, yeah, this is a good idea. That's hard. It's very, very hard. And in fact, when I work on decisions or projects, I'm very selective in who I pick, because I want people who are very smart, that are intelligent, forward thinking, very much forward thinking, and that can easily get stuff done. But I don't want dead weight. And you have a whale of dead weight here in Tacoma organizations and politics, in my opinion. So there are a lot of things I could point to that could have actually gotten done, but we literally kiss people's butts. And when stuff doesn't get done or happen, we're like, well, I don't know what happened. What happened with that? Well, we can't get people to do what they need to do. That's what happened to it. And then later it compounds. We have additional issues. There are things like, I wanted a streetscape program on Commerce Street, which would have made a lot of sense. It would have helped bring in additional businesses on that street, which is pretty much absent. It's called Commerce, but there's none that's happening there. It would have brought more businesses on the street. It would have helped solve the situation as far as people finding affordable spaces downtown. You have a lot of landowners down there, or property owners, that don't want to budge on their rental price. And you can kind of understand it once you get into the weeds of it. Does it make it right? No, but I can understand it. So city assets, sidewalks that we all own, should be utilized for us to have businesses every so often. Now, I'm not saying have a big old cluster of businesses or they're ugly looking or anything like that, but professionally designed small stalls that are, no stall can be within 80 feet of another one, and they can't be blocking sidewalk access and all of that. That could have easily been done on Commerce Street. And we now have a city that has a budget issue. We have a street there that there's no improvements that's been done. You can sit and watch and see people who have mental issues sitting there screaming on the street, or, you may have some vagrants who will just kind of just go through, tag stuff, do different things, because there's no eyes on the street. It doesn't feel safe. It's not well lit. You don't have anything that's been done. It's a divestment, basically. And we then wonder why we don't get the glory that we hope for. We wonder why we don't get Amazon down here as a campus, or a campus of a big employer, because we don't have smart people in every single position that needs to be there. And maybe we do have smart people, but we don't have people that have that gumption, that gung-ho attitude of a go-getter. We just don't. The fortitude is not there. So that's part of it. So when people come here, they're like, those poor businesses, I feel bad. There's not a flow of people downtown because there's no reason for them to come. It's not fun. If you go out to Ruston, it's fun. There's easy access to the water. If you go downtown, there's not really that easy of an access to get down to the waterfront. Even though we're sitting on a bunch of water, there's no beach downtown, which is stupid. It's a protected area where you're not going to have waves that are 6 foot tall, but it's a protected area. There's no beach. There's no thought. It's never going to happen. We don't have beach down there. You can have a beach volleyball set up, which is cheap. You can go to Walmart or Amazon or anybody and get that. That's not going to happen. We don't have, a lot of cities bring in like an old decommissioned ship from the military. We are a military and Navy area, heavily. There's a ton of just ships just sitting and rotting up in Bremerton, Navy, in the shipyard. Bring in a submarine even. We have the water. No. That makes too much damn sense. We don't have a reason for people to come down there. So stores and shop owners and business owners are taking a massive leap of faith. And they care about the community enough to put it downtown. They believe in it. But it would be very helpful if we had people who really, really cared beyond doing the bare minimum and actively try to get crap happening. Then we could see some things but we don't. We'll spend money on some of the most stupidest things, and it chips away. And then when there becomes something that we really could utilize the money for, it's like, we don't have the budget we don't have the money for it. It's because we're spending it on stupid things that really don't do anything. It doesn't move the needle whatsoever. But again, there are certain people that know it all. So that's, what do you do when the judge, jury, and executioner is like, nope, then that's it. So if you're a politician, you're on the council, or even the mayor, it doesn't matter what it is that you technically want. If the whole crew doesn't agree, it's not going to happen. Or if you approve something, I said this just yesterday, you can approve a program and everybody's on the same accord, mayor and everybody. City manager gives the funds and all the money is available for something. But again, you have city departments where sometimes you can get the wrong person who is not ever going to do anything. They're told to paint this pen black, and that's what they're going to do. They're not going to try to make it look nice. They're not going to try to go above and beyond. They're just going to, it's done. That's what we have. So to the guy that was saying that, man, these poor businesses, I agree. I think that there could be a lot more activity. I don't think they're struggling the way that you think. We're not the type of city where you're going to see, 3,000 people on the street downtown Monday through whatever. I do think we're going to see more people down there. I do think that. There are people who are saying that, in 2019, pre-pandemic, downtown had a lot of people walking around. It didn't. I don't know what stats people are getting, but it didn't. And I'm going on visuals. I could be completely wrong. But today, yeah, you see a whole heck of a lot more people because people are living down there. There are more headquarters. Just one building, the State Farm building, just now got 2 additional businesses taking up office space. So I don't know how many employees they're going to have. It didn't say, but that helps. I mean, if a company comes in and they bring in 15 employees, another one comes in and they bring in 20 employees, that's great. We now have 35 people who would have never walked around downtown probably, who are now down there able to find places to eat. So these food halls and these other things, these restaurants that are about to open are mainly trying to create a destination because they realize there's nothing else down there that can create that destination. They have to be creative. Unfortunately, because we're not unlike Spokane, who has them all downtown, which is by itself a destination. It's its own entertainment. See, the thing is, Spokane benefits because of the Old World's Fair that happened. They have a lot of cool things because of that. Before, they didn't give a damn about their river that runs through. They didn't care. It's like, it's there. But again, it lit a fire under people to say, like, hey, let's do something. We are the city on this side of Washington and for this region. We got to do something. So now you got gondola, or whatever it is, the little thingies that go across the river, and the river was improved and cleared up some stuff, and it was no longer just industrial and nasty. They put stuff in, a new mall, and hotels were updated. It looks great. It is a destination. The city didn't have to do anything extra. They're still riding off of the waves of what was done back when I was a kid. But the excuse is that's Spokane. And on that side of the state, there's not a lot to do. And they benefit from all these other people from Idaho and other places coming in because there's not a lot to do. It's an excuse. It's an excuse. Is that true? Sure. But you cannot sit there and look what's around us. Just look at our county. Let's not talk about, because people say, well, King County and Seattle, there's Federal Way and there's Sumner and there's Kent and there's, Uwajimaya and everybody else that, people, it's an excuse. But what about Pierce County? Let's just look at Pierce County at 1 million people. That's by far more than what you're going to have in all of Spokane and part of Idaho and all these other places people are mentioning. It's a much bigger area here, bigger economy, more population. Could we definitely support a lot of these things? Yeah, we could. It's just we don't have that motivation like those other places do. I don't know what their government's setup structure is there in Spokane. I don't know. But do I think the former government we have now is ineffective? Yeah, I do. Are you going to see me out there lobbying to change it? Nope. Juice ain't worth the squeeze. There's a lot of people who feel it's not an effective way to govern at this point, given the size of the city. But those smart people are like, I'm not going to sit there and try to go through the weeds and try to change that or put that on the ballot. Or no, it's not worth it. It's not worth the energy to really do it. Right? It's not really worth the energy to try to even have that dialogue, that discussion, because now politics is such an evil, it shouldn't be, but it's such an evil thing almost, because now people have really weaponized it so much that well intentions are not going to happen because of fear. If people run for office or they're in office, they're afraid that you're going to have a nut job that will do something, because they're underinformed of what's going on. They have no clue, but they think they know. And so then they take it out on people who really sometimes are trying to do the right thing. Now, that's not always the case. You have some who are sitting up there who were elected or voted in or whatever who aren't doing the right things. I will always say that. They're going on their gut instinct. Sometimes that's due to lack of exposure of things. Maybe it's based on their life experiences or the lack thereof. It's not a perfect thing, right? It is what it is. So I'm very well aware of that. But I think that we could do more. We could definitely do more. And slowly that's happening. But again, it's mainly the business community that's doing that. It's not any other. It's not nonprofits. It's not city departments. It's not any of that. Most of the big dramatic things that are happening are due to businesses. That's it. Now, maybe there were policies that kind of help things. People will say, well, the housing policy has brought a lot of developers to Tacoma, and you're seeing a lot of investments due to that. Absolutely. But we shouldn't just sit back on our butt and be like, yep, we got this many units coming in, and if we weren't growing, we wouldn't have those. Well, of course. I mean, they're getting a break, so of course they're going to build, and the demand is there. So a lot of that's due to Seattle. I mean, the funny thing is that we Spokane is who we should be comparing ourselves to, but then it's a mulligan, because no. Spokane is over there by themselves, and that's an advantage. We have a huge advantage right up to the north of us. It's the behemoth, and no, we don't take advantage of that unless it comes from people. The people are who we take that as an advantage and say, cool, we now have a bigger population because people are trying to not be eating cans of beans and corn for dinner because they can't afford to live up there. So they move down here, still have access to a lot of things, still get their job up there, right? It's stuff like that. Like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not quite correct. And that might necessarily be the case. But I do think that the false comparisons are really a problem. Let's compare apples to apples and really look at our downtown as opposed to some of these others. Some of these bigger cities that people come from, you go to their downtowns and people will talk, and I'm like, I've been there. It's not like I lived all over. It's not like your downtown is just slanging people. It just isn't. Most cities, even the ones that have a mall in them, you don't see a whole huge bunch of people walking around. The problem is Seattle has given this false perception that, you see all the tourists. They benefit, right? We don't have big cruise companies docking in and dropping off 1,000 people at a time. So that's benefit A. You have 1,000 people just mulling around. Come on. We don't have. Now, that doesn't mean that we couldn't. Again, look at what Oakland and San Francisco. San Francisco's that's some competition. That's some real competition. Not saying Seattle isn't, but that's some competition. San Francisco, money, huge tourist area. Like there's a lot on that tech area. But that doesn't stop Oakland from being Oakland and being able to have its own professional sports team, its own airline, own airport, everything. It's kind of like San Francisco doesn't exist. Down here, nope. It's not that same. And again, people say, well, compare apples to apples. Oakland's much bigger. I give you that. I give you that. But it still doesn't mean that we can't step outside of the box, learn from other places that are similar to us, and try to implement some of those same policies and create a destination for downtown. That doesn't mean that we can't do that. And unfortunately, we just don't have people with the fortitude to do it. We have people that kind of guess at it. Let me take a stab at it and see. And unfortunately, it doesn't pan out. So I think that sure, downtown needs more people down there walking and roaming around. I think there's more people down there now than there has been. Do I think that there can be more that can be done? Without a question, without a doubt. Do I think that we're trending in the right direction in terms of development? Yes. As far as policies, organizations, and all that, the jury is still out on that. But when it comes to what businesses are doing, the business community and citizens moving into downtown, they're all doing the right things without question. Without them, we wouldn't see a lot of the turnaround that we're seeing. It's not to say that policies and things that are being done are not helping. They do help. I don't think they go nearly close to being far enough. And so that is part of the issue. But tell me what your thoughts are. I do think that folks don't quite understand that on the weekends is when a lot of people come downtown to shop and do things. Also during business hours, people do leave and actually go and eat. Part of this too is just our current dynamic. People, when they have a break, what do? They pick up their phone, they call whomever or text whomever, and that's kind of how they spend their break. They'll go find something like within 20 feet to eat, and then so that's part of the issue. We don't have it like back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, when people would actually get out and walk and leave their job and go and get lunch. You still have some of that, but generally, unless it's within arm distance, you don't have a lot of people wanting to go out typically the way that they used to. And so that's part of it. If we had more people that would leave their office and actually go around downtown Tacoma at different businesses, yeah, you'd see a lot, by far more foot traffic. Most of what you're seeing, though, are people bringing lunches, and sometimes they have to because we just haven't had the right type of restaurants down there. It's really, there's a lot of different things why we have the situation that we do. We have a lot of tablecloth places where you sit down and you wait 30 minutes to find a seat, and then you sit down. You hopefully have a waiter that's on it. If not, 10 to 15 minutes trying to get your ordered in. Then they got to cook it. So hell, you've done spent almost an hour before you get to eat. But nobody's got time for that. And unfortunately, we've never had, because there's no mall down there, we've never had a food court. You'd have to go all the way over to Freight House Square. Well, you have to get on a little train. That schedule is okay, but it's not as frequent as it needs to be. So you got to be right there close, because otherwise you may be waiting for a few minutes. Every minute counts. So that's all the way over there in the Dome District. There's no offices in the Dome District, really. There's not a lot over there. But Freight House Square has the 6 or 7 different places to eat. And then people are grossed out by the building. I get it. So they're not going to go there. There's no other place to really eat. The food hall that's being brought in is a great attempt to try to fix that issue because people want to be able to come up quickly, order their food, which they should be able to eat, and go back to work. And I've taken a great break. I've got to sit down, talk to people, everything else. I got to, we don't have to all be in agreement. And I think part of it too is people hate the whole I have to agree to every damn thing. So where are we going to go do lunch? What do you think? Should we go here? Should we go there? What about Pita Pit? Let's go to Pita Pit. And it's like, but that's really the only thing. Nothing against Pita Pit, but like, dang, after a while, it's like, man, I'd rather eat my fist. It's like the same thing because there's no options other than sitting and waiting. So having a place where I can easily go in there, I don't have to agree with 50 people of where we go to eat. They can all eat it wherever they want to eat. We can come to a table. Oh, where'd you get such and such? Now the food is the part of the conversation versus, well, we're all here at Pita Pit or we're all eating at such and such. Eating Subway. Where'd you go? Went to Starbucks. Ask people where they go for lunch. There's not a lot of options. I mean, you can go into Old Spaghetti Factory, but again, it's a sit down, do your thing type of place. And so sometimes service is fast enough because they realize these poor saps all around us have no other real options that are quick, right? The other part is affordability. I mean, some of these and I understand why some of these restaurants are charging arms and legs for a meal, but it's like, dang, if you wanted to eat out every day, you would probably not have much of a paycheck. So there's no true good affordable options for people who work every day. Think about people who aren't working. Think about the students. We have a high school down there that's fairly popular and big. We have and it's sprawled all over. There's different little buildings all over downtown. We have a middle school down there. We have a technical college right there. We have a university down there. So a high school, middle school, university, and a college, couple of colleges. And those are people who really don't have typically a lot of money or time. Basically, it's been like, well, screw it. That's your problem. And so people were thinking about, well, we're a date type setting. We're a dinner crowd type thing. And I've seen recently where Monday through even Sunday, you can go downtown after 5, and many of the places in our non-classified or listed entertainment district, it's full. It's full of people. Why? People want to be able to do stuff. There's nothing else to go and do, and nobody wants to really sit in a car and drive to all these different places. 6th Avenue is cool, but it's like, it's a long linear street. Like I don't want to have to walk and walk and walk and walk after I ate. And then trying to find agreement. It's like downtown is designed for that. Like, cool. You can go right there on Pack Avenue and you can bar hop. Like, cool. I can drink a beer, walk over to the other place and still be like, woo. Versus I drink a beer, got a little bit of a buzz going, but I got to walk 30 minutes, 15 minutes. And it's like, got to start all over again. You see what I'm saying? Like it's that type of thing. It just doesn't, I think that 6th Avenue should be there. Absolutely. But it's just, I don't know. But I think downtown benefits because there's things within close walking distance. But it really is a place for couples. Downtown Tacoma is couple friendly, or if you have a group of friends. That's it. Single person, you're screwed. Where do you go? There's no place downtown really for singles. You literally, when you go places, notice it. Just go downtown on a Friday, Saturday night, pick a night, and just roam around on Pack Avenue by yourself, and you'll see what I'm talking about. 99.9% of the time, people are grouped up with someone. You don't have single individual people. I can go to Albuquerque, and they only have like 3 or 4 little places downtown. But you have single people walking all over the place. Why? There's nightclubs there. We don't have any nightclubs, really. So that's typically where single folks go to go dance. I can dance with some random. But it's not like that here. Here, people are shacked up, booed up, married up. You got people locked arms. It's not. So if you're coming in from out of town here for some event, and you want to go and like, man, I'm just gonna go and hang out. Maybe there's people I can just talk to at the bar or something. It's not like a pickup and like a one night type of stand type thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, like, you want to be able to go to a bar. There's people there talking. When I went to Vegas, sat down at the bar, the bartender talked to me, and there was a guy sitting next to me. We just had a conversation for like 30, 40 minutes. I went to Milwaukee before COVID, and I went out because Noelle went there for business. Went to a bar, sat down. Dang, I was the man of the hour. Where are you from? Well, I'm from Seattle. Wow, you're here, blah, 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 blah. There was two guys sitting over here, two guys sitting next to me, and I was sitting right here. The one guy next to me, because you can bring in your own alcohol if you want, said, here's a beer. Had a beer. He had to order some food here and get you some of that food, because it was a platter of different things. Got another drink, but it was like actual alcohol. I'm like, I hadn't paid nothing yet. Wait a second. Like, I appreciate all the nice stuff. Let me buy something. I think I spent maybe $5. Maybe. But man, I had a great time. That ain't gonna happen here. You're not gonna have single dudes just hanging at a bar like that, chit-chatting and talking. No. It's more or less, most of the people are going to be under the age of 25 in the entertainment area. You go up to McMenamins, same thing, typically. You have a little bit older people, but again, it's not conducive for single people. It's just, we don't have that. We don't have it. And it's mainly a place for you to eat and drink. It's not a place to dance. It's not a place to play any sort of games. Finding a pool hall downtown is like a scavenger hunt. There's a couple of places, but it's a scavenger hunt. You see what I'm saying? Like, we have a long way to go. But I do think that overall, business-wise, we're trending in the right direction. But as far as seeing a packed downtown where there's people walking every place and it's just streets are crowded and the sidewalks are crowded and you got to step off because there's so many people and you got to wait, that's not Tacoma. And it never will be Tacoma. We're never going to be that type of city. It's not Seattle light, right? It's Tacoma. It's going to always kind of be somewhat empty downtown in terms of just people walking around. It is. And if you go to cities bigger than us, it's the same thing. Doesn't mean the businesses are struggling. It just means that that's the normal order of things. I think Seattle is just a very much it gets a lot of glory because there's a lot of employees down there. There's a lot of tourism. Those things is what you're seeing. You're not really seeing. If you took that stuff away, which has happened, then what do you have? You have a vacant downtown. You have very few people walking around, right? When you take the tourist away and you look at downtown, just take the tourist away. Don't take away the tech jobs. Just take away the tourists. You don't have nearly as many people walking around. Take away the cruise industry, which has happened. You don't have anybody walking around. So that's reality. That's the reality. The difference is that Seattle has had businesses as well as the city itself establish itself as a destination. There's so many things to do, from a gum wall, which costs the city nothing, but it's a cult attraction, to the waterfront and the pier, to tours and ghost tours and underground tours. And I mean, heck, there's so much to do here. Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. Until next time, I will see you. Take care.